Welcome to the AtlantECO podcast, where we talk about the science behind the AtlantECO project, the Atlantic Ocean, and the human adventures experienced along the way. Here, we have conversations with guests from around the world who work together so that we can better understand, manage, and protect the ocean. So let's embark on the journey of AtlantECO and discover the world that lies above and beneath the surface of the beautiful Atlantic Ocean. So welcome back to the AtlantECO podcast, and we are today, actually in this episode, we go back to discussing one of the scientific aspects of AtlantECO, something that we haven't done in a while, actually. And we have this conversation with our guest, Serena Zunino, to understand how we measure the health of the ocean. But before we do that, we'll get to know our guest. And first of all, I'll say, Serena, hi and welcome. It is such a pleasure to talk with you today.
Hi, Eloise. Thank you for having me here. It's really a pleasure for me.
So before we dive into today's topic, we are going to talk a little bit about you. So I'd like for you to share with us what started your connection with the ocean, what inspired you to do what you do today, and your journey that has got you to where you are today.
Okay, well, yes, let's say that I'd always had a strong connection with the sea since I have memories. My family used to live in Liguria, in a city on the northwest Mediterranean Sea, so I spent my summer childhood practically in the sea. And I felt a special connection. I love to swim and explore the ecosystems, looking at the animal behavior and so on. So the sea has always been a happy place for me. And for the rest of the year, I used to live in an island city, but I still remember the joy of watching documentaries about the sea and the overwhelming emotion that they were creating in me. And then growing up, I started to be more curious about human behavior, the society and its functioning. Indeed, during high school, I focused on sociological topics. Well, until the last year when I met my biology professor. She has been like a tsunami in my head. She turned upside down everything I thought to do in the years to come. And so I decided to study biology at the university. And of course, I moved to the seaside. Then during the university, I had the opportunity to work for a while in Maldives Island and witness the beauties and ecological richness of some almost pristine areas of the ocean. This made me feel the urge to dedicate my work to study marine ecosystem and act for their preservation and conservation, and also restoration. Also in seas where human pressure is intense. But soon enough, I understood the necessity to include into the equation human society, since I believe that without the comprehension of people's needs and feelings, it is just impossible to proceed toward the rebuilding of sustainable ecosystem with the environment. And actually, this holistic vision is indeed considered crucial in modern ecology. My ecological studies has also been focusing on the analysis, the evaluation, and the dissemination of the role of the ocean in our own life and for our well-being.
Wow, so a nice journey and one that has led you to where you are today. So you work for the OGS in Italy?
Yeah, I'm a postdoc there since 2018, actually.
And today in our episode, we want to get a better understanding of how we can measure the health of the ocean. So in AtlantECO, it is one of our main goals to get an idea of how the ocean is, its status and its health, and to have these tools to enable us to know what is going on and how it might change in the future. So it is important, but of course we need to understand how we do that. So maybe to start with, could you tell us what we mean by measuring the health of the ocean? What are we trying to learn, really?
Yes, of course it is. So first of all, before I directly answer to your question, let's just spend 2 words on what we mean by ocean health. Basically, we can consider the ocean in a healthy status when its structure is well maintained, the ecosystem function work properly, and the system is stable, resilient, and thrives. So basically, when the pressure acting on it are not altering its functioning because the system is able to absorb the pressure. So starting from this idea, we can further define what is a healthy ocean for us, why we need to take care of it, and what are the threats and the consequences to the status of health. So first, most of the recent scientific literature and the vast majority of policy documents adopt the concept of ecosystem-based approach that basically recognize that humans with their cultural diversity are an integral components of the ecosystem. So keeping in mind this concept, here we refer to a healthy ocean as a concept for which both people and nature thrive. Particularly, according to this approach, when the ocean is in a good status, so when its structure and functions are maintained, the marine ecosystem provides us many important ecosystem services that basically are the benefits that we obtain from the nature. So we can say that the health of the ocean is strictly linked to our health and well-being. A healthy ocean is the ocean that sustainably delivers a range of benefits to people now and in the future. Therefore, when we say that we aim to measure the health of the ocean, basically what we are trying to do is to assess its status and how its status diverges from the condition of a healthy ecosystem. This seems to link to the idea that the ocean could be sick. Indeed, in the last decades, the ocean has been subject to an increased amount of pressures, such as the loss of biodiversity, overexploitation, like, for example, exploitation of fish stocks that brought almost to the collapse of them. Then we have the pollution and habitat destruction. Moreover, the ocean is subject to the effect of climate change, such as warming, acidification, increasing extreme events. So there is an urgent need to understand what is the current status of the ecosystem, considering all of this pressure that we are imposing on it, and how these pressures are going to affect the ocean functionalities and consequently the provision of ecosystem services. So at the end, to synthesize, we need to know how our pressure is going to affect the ocean status and our own well-being. And this knowledge is necessary to shift our global trajectory toward a more sustainable one, in which we will have to reduce our impact on the ecosystem, and we have to use the resource in a more sustainable way. And just to add a final thought, it's necessary to provide society with knowledge and the tool to go toward improvement of mitigation and adaptation strategy actions.
Yeah, so a lot to take in. So basically, if I can say basically, it is understanding how our action impact on the ocean and its health, and this is in turn going to impact us. So once we understand how we are impacting on the ocean, we can take some measure or some actions to kind of stop the bad things we're doing to the ocean.
Exactly.
So if we go back to AtlantECO, we want to use a tool, or maybe it's a tool or framework that already exists. It's called the Ocean Health Index. So maybe can you tell us about the OHI, as we call it? Tell us what it is, how it works, and how we are going to use it in AtlantECO.
Yeah, of course. So as I said, we are using the Ocean Health Index, that is an assessment framework that comprehensively evaluates marine environment. The index was developed by Ben Alpern and his team, and it's been calculated every year since 2012 to measure progress towards a suite of key societal goals. Let's say that they are the ecosystem services in some way. They indeed represent the benefits and services people expect healthy oceans to provide, like, for example, food provision, carbon storage, water cleanliness, and biodiversity, just to name a few. By analyzing these goals together and scoring them from 0 to 100, the index assessment provides an integrated picture of the status of the ecosystem and can be communicated to a wide range of audiences. The framework of the Ocean Health Index gives us the opportunity to assess the status of the ocean based on the sustainable provisioning of these benefits and services that are the benefits and services that people expect from our oceans. And the progress toward each goal is assessed against the optimal and sustainable level that can be achieved. And there's many different ways to do so. For each goal, there's different reference point to take into account. The amount of data to calculate this index is really huge. Just to give you an idea, in the global assessment calculated by Benalper team, they used nearly 80 different global data sets spanning ecological, social, economic, and governance measures. And in this assessment, they use the index to calculate the scores for all the coastal nations. Now in AtlantECO, we are working on the implementation of the Ocean Health Index. The aim is to add new detail of data at higher resolution, both spatial and temporal, and new kinds of data like the ones linked to the plastic pollution or the genetic information that has the potential to enlighten ecosystem function yet to be discovered. Indeed, we want to integrate into the original structure of the Ocean Health Index the new knowledge the AtlantECO and all the partners are developing that are mainly based on microbiomes, microplastic, ocean circulation, productivities, for example. So right now we are working to develop new indicators to produce improved estimate of ecosystem status and trend of some service that the Atlantic Ocean provide, like food provisioning services, for example. And specifically, we are using this index to assess the status of ecosystem structure, function, health, and services at the whole Atlantic scale. And now we are focusing also on some regional case study, incorporating this high data resolution. And moreover, we want to assess how the status will be altered according to future projection of climate change and possible future socioeconomic pathways, since we need to make prediction about the capacity of ecosystem to continuously provide services in a sustainable ways also in the future.
Yeah, so a lot of work ahead, but something that is essential to understand the health of the ocean at the ocean scale is something that is going to require a lot of work, a lot of data, but it is important. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some of that information and you'll be able to include those indicators in that existing framework. And once we have this information about the health of the ocean, who is going to use that information and what impact will it have on how we can manage and preserve these resources and the services that you've been talking about that are all provided by all these marine ecosystems?
As I said, this framework, this index is very communicative since synthesizes in a score ranging from 0 to 100 the information of the health of the ocean. And the communicative power of this framework must be used in all its potential to increase awareness to stakeholders to promote sustainable use of marine ecosystem. Such an easily understandable index, despite the underlying high complexity due to the embedding of ecological, social, and economic data, is fundamental since it allows the scenario comparison and can guide management decision. Indeed, the results of this kind of analysis is needed to provide scientific advice of the status and trend of different policy scenarios, and could help stakeholders and policymakers define management strategies and raise awareness of the threats facing our ocean. And this is urgently needed since, as I said before, it's necessary to shift our global trajectory towards a more sustainable one in which we will have to reduce our impact on the ecosystem and use the resources in a more sustainable way. It is necessary to provide the knowledge and awareness to move towards the improvement of mitigation adaptation strategy action for our well-being and also for the ones of the generation to come.
So maybe an additional question that I'm going to throw in there. You said the Ocean Health Index has been calculated since 2012. So about 10 years, just over 10 years now. So could you tell us what kind of results have been seen, what the trends are looking like? Is the ocean getting healthier? Is it getting worse? Because you say we need to change the trajectory, so I'm guessing it's getting worse.
Yeah, from some point of view, it's getting worse since there's an increasing pressure that is acting on it. And I think in particular, the pressure due to climate change drivers like warming, increasing marine heat waves events, and so on. On the other hand, something good is happening. Like, for example, there's an increasing amount of legislation that is trying to protect the ocean. And actually, it's working. For example, I think about the policy related to the eutrophication in the Mediterranean Sea or in the North Sea. And this is actually providing some results. So there's something that is going well and something on which we are still have to work a lot. And also, for example, regarding the open oceans, we need to pay a lot of attention due to the increasing interest in the exploitation of the deep sea. So we need to improve our knowledge on this ecosystem and our awareness of the necessity to act with legislation also in the high seas to avoid the destruction of this habitat.
For sure. So it's interesting to hear that we know what is worsening or what's not going so well, but it's also very good to hear that the measures that have been put in place have a positive impact. So let's hope that with AtlantECO and our contribution to this Ocean Health Index, we can contribute to making things better in the future.
Yeah, let's hope so.
So, Serena, I have to thank you for taking the time to explain all of this to us today. And hopefully we can have a chat maybe in a couple of years' time when we've made some progress with measuring the health of the ocean, of the Atlantic Ocean, and to see what kind of results we have to share.
Yeah, sounds very nice. Let's see. And thank you for the opportunity, really.
We hope that you've enjoyed today's episode and look forward to seeing you next time. You can follow the AtlantECO project on our website on www.atlanteco.eu, and you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. All the links and information on the project and on today's episode is in the show notes. AtlantECO is a project funded under Horizon 2020, a European Union research and innovation programme.